Like figure it out.
Okay. I'd like to call the January 11th, 2022 afternoon session of the Nelson County Board of Supervisors to order. Stand for a moment of silence. Mr. Rutherford, can you lead us in the pledge?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first order of business is public comments. Just a quick review. For speaking during the comment period, I'll call speakers from the sign-up sheet who signed up before the meeting. When your name is called, come to the podium, speak in the microphone clearly, state your name and address for the record. If you're speaking on behalf of a group, please identify the group you're representing and direct your comments to the board. Individuals may speak for 3 minutes. If you're representing a group, you can have up to 5, and the chair has the discretion to award additional time if he or she so desires. And if anyone has not signed up, you'll still get a chance after those who have their chance to speak. We do have on the list Ms. Edith Napier.
Good afternoon. I'm Edith Napier. I live at 43 Napier Loop in Arrington, Virginia. I come to you again regarding an issue that I've come several times before, and that is being able to get ambulance service to the hospital requested. Recently, I personally experienced the incident when the individual was denied being taken to the hospital where they are regularly serviced. And then over the Christmas holiday, a neighbor who had a medical need was refused to be allowed to take into the hospital associated with her doctor and where she's been serviced. I believe, Mr. Harvey, you said it had been taken care of, but it keeps reoccurring. So I ask that please look into that and see that it is taken care of, because when someone is upset with a loved one that needs immediate medical services, it's not the time to try to be arguing with someone about the hospital they'll be taken to. And once they get to the hospital, it means a lot that their records are there and their doctors there. And I thank you.
Thank you. That's all that we have signed up on our list. If anyone else would like to speak during public comments, this would be your chance to be recognized. Yes.
I'm just wondering if this stink bug is talking
Excuse
about
me.
today.
You have to give your name and
Oh,
address,
it's
please.
not talking.
He was grabbing a stink bug.
Oh, sorry.
I did not bring him up.
Yeah,
I think he went above his allotted 3 minutes.
it may have had something to say. Would anybody like to come and address the board?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, then I will close the public comment period. Next item on the agenda is the reorganization of the board for our annual organizational meeting.
Mr. Carter.
Mr. Carter, you want to help us with this?
The board's organizational meeting is required by state law and local ordinance to be conducted at the first regular session in January. The first order of business is to elect a chairman and vice chairman. And as in the past, I would just open the floor for nominations for chairman of the board of supervisors.
I move Jesse.
Second.
Any other nominations?
I move the close.
Second.
Who's
I don't want to cut roll call on the closing of the nominations.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford,
Yes.
Mr. Harvey,
Yes.
Mr. Barton,
Yes.
Mr. Reed.
Yes.
And now we'll have roll call, we'll close the nominations and have roll call on the nomination of Mr. Rutherford to be the chairman of the board.
Mr. Barton,
Yes.
Mr. Harvey,
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford,
Sure.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Reed.
Yes.
Good, thank you, congratulations. Now I'll open the floor for vice chairman of the board of supervisors for 2022.
If I may, I'd like to nominate Mr. Barton as vice chair.
I don't think I'm in line. Have you done it, David? The vice chair yet?
Not yet, but I'm not this year.
What?
Not this year is what he said.
I'll do whatever, but
Mr.
Somebody else wants
Mr. Barton's fine.
Mhm.
Mr. Barton's fine.
The nomination was for Mr. Barton.
Yeah, Mr. Barton.
Is there a second?
second.
Are there any other nominations?
Move to close nominations.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Amanda?
Mr. Barton,
Yes.
Mr. Harvey,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford.
Yes.
Now, Ms. Spivey, will you call the roll for election of Mr. Barton to be vice chairman?
Mr. Harvey,
Yes.
Mr. Barton,
Yes.
Mr. Carr,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford.
Yes.
Right, thank you. I'll call the board's attention to resolution R 2201, which provides for the board's annual organizational meeting, establishes dates and times and locations for the board's meetings, and in addition thereto, provides a listing of appointments the board needs to consider. Staff has taken the first shot at this, and the board may, on page 2 of the resolution, want to discuss some of those appointments before the resolution is approved.
As it relates to I get the hammer now. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. As it relates to some of the appointments, for this board's record, I do have, upon completion of my chairmanship with the TJPDC, I will be stepping down halfway through the year. So my chairmanship, I believe, is up in July. So I just want the board to be aware of that. Further on,
No effect on it, Jesse.
what's that?
It doesn't, it's not.
No, it doesn't. I was just making the board aware in case for their inquiries. I do know as it relates to the Nelson County Planning Commission, I will say the Planning Commission has had a majority for some time. I do have an interest in participating in the Planning Commission. And Mr. Reed has done a good job in the last couple of years. I just pass the baton. It'd be cool.
I respect that, Ms. Rutherford. In the last year, have enjoyed my stint on the Planning Commission. I think that the next year is going to be really critical as we launch the comprehensive plan. And I would like to continue serving on the Planning Commission for one more term.
And and that would be you will be completing your second year going into your third year, correct?
Correct.
Gotcha. So I just have interest with that.
So how does all this work as far as the committee assignments? I mean, is this list that we have right here, is that,
It doesn't mean,
is that
doesn't
just
mean
current
anything.
assignments?
That's, yeah, current,
And so today's the day, if we want to make any changes,
exactly.
I mean, I will say and again, I appreciate Mr. Reed's service on the planning commission, but it would be nice to get a representative from this side of 151 corridor on the planning commission. And with Mr. Rutherford probably stepping down, I'm assuming from TJPDC at the end of that term, I think it would be good to have his expertise on the planning commission. I know I am not interested in that position.
I think the best way to resolve the considerations for the board is to make a motion.
If somebody just needs to make a
Yeah.
motion.
Can I ask a question?
Certainly.
When we're talking about the social service board,
Yes.
it was for you that I appoint you to the social service board.
Yeah, I've spoken. I don't have interest on.
I know
Yeah.
that. We'll,
Yeah.
deal with that later.
Sure.
But can both of you serve on the planning commission?
No.
They can't.
No.
Kind of one position. Unless they took the district. If they were the district representatives,
I think historically before our term, usually it was the chairman served on the planning committee, and that's not all the time, but a lot of the time it would be the chairman also served on the planning commission historically. And some of that changed with time constraints and also just levels of interest. I would say just to resolve it, it'd be just simpler if we just started making motions and see where they ended up.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I move that we appoint Jesse Rutherford as planning commission representative to the board for the upcoming term.
All right, we have a motion on the floor. We need a second.
second,
Second for Mr. Harvey. If we could have a roll call vote, Ms. Spivey?
Ms. Burton,
No.
Mr. Harvey,
yes,
Mr. Reed,
No.
Mr. Parr,
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford.
Yes. Thanks, sir. All right, moving forward, is there any other nominations that we need to make adjustments with the, any appointments in this coming year?
Mr. Parr expressed an interest to me in becoming familiar with what the social service board did. And, I said that I had, just started to get to understand it, but it was important that all members of the board understand how that works and its importance to our community. So I'm willing to step down if Mr. Parr would like to take that position.
Yep. Yes, sir.
If we could get that in a motion form?
I make a motion.
All right, we have a motion to approve Mr. Parr on social services. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second from Mr. Reed. At this point, any further discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Spivey?
Mr. Harvey,
yes,
Mr. Barton,
Yes.
Mr. Parr,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford.
Yes. All right, moving on. At this point, do we need to approve, after those adjustments, the remaining organizational schedule? Is there any other adjustments that the board wishes to make on this current setup?
let me make sure I find all this first.
All right, it is 3B.
Well, not a matter of all.
You want this one? Okay. All right, if there's no other comments, if we could have a motion to approve this with the edits that were made.
Mr. Chairman, I for the motion to adopt resolution R 2022-1 with the list of appointments as included in that resolution.
With the adjustment.
With the
adjustment.
adjustment.
Got it. Is that okay? All right, we have a motion presented with the adjustments that were made with the prior two votes. Do we have a second? We have a second for Mr. Parr. We need, Ms. Spivey?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Burton?
Yes.
Mr. Parr?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes. Excellent. Thank you all so much. Moving on into further business, we have the consent agenda. We have a special recognition today of Mr. Bailey. Mr. Harvey, if I'm not mistaken, he's from your side of the county. I was hoping we could potentially pull that from the agenda and you potentially read it. Mr. Bailey, if you don't mind coming up real quick. I got you. Right here.
I have a resolution I'd like to read. Resolution number 2022-04. Nelson County Board of Supervisors recognition of Donald Bailey, whereas Donald Bailey became active in Nelson County elections in 2006. And whereas Donald Bailey served as an officer of election from 2006 to 10. As Donald Bailey served as member of chairman of the Nelson County Electoral Board from 2010 to 21. And whereas Donald Bailey has faithfully and impartially contributed to the fairness, accuracy, and integrity of elections in Nelson County for many years. The members of the Board of Supervisors wish to commend and thank Donald Bailey for his exemplary service to Nelson County, which is indeed appreciated by all our citizens. Now therefore be it resolved that the Nelson County Board of Supervisors does hereby officially recognize Donald H. Bailey and respectfully ask all citizens alike to join in expressing their sincere gratitude and appreciation for the many long hours and outstanding service and commitment to our community he has given.
Excellent. We have a motion from Mr. Harvey. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Barton. Ms. Spivey?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Parr?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Bailey, for your years of service.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, as we all know, elections are a very difficult task, and especially in recent history, you make the news a lot, you know.
We try not to make.
I got you. But, Mr. Bailey, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, well, a little bit. I just, it's not always easy. It's always an honor and a privilege to be working in a nonpartisan way on the board. However, I really want to commend Jackie, Britt, and her staff, because without them, we could not do, as a board, we could not do what we do. And I want to thank you, gentlemen, for financially supporting the board and supplying for the needs that we have to do our job properly. Thank you very much.
Certainly. Mr. Bailey, thank you so much. We could give him a round of applause for his years of service. We appreciate you. All right, moving on further in the consent agenda, we have the minutes for approval and a budget amendment. It is the chair's recommendation that we approve this consent agenda as presented with the remaining items.
So moved.
We have a motion from Mr. Parr. We need a second.
Second.
Second from Mr. Harvey. Ms. Spivey?
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Parr?
Yes.
Mr. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Rutherford?
Yes. All right, moving forward into presentations. VDOT is not coming today. However, we have a guest here with the Millennium Group. If you don't mind coming forward, and if we could get the projector on and whatever else in presentations, that'd be great. And if you could just state your name and your group and all.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much. My name is Janet Burdette. I reside at 135 Pine Hill Lane in Norwood, Virginia, and I'm here in representing the Millennium Group and the Nelson Heritage Center as the Executive Director. We thank you for the opportunity to present and to give you an update on where we are with the Health Department renovation project. And moving the health department to the Nelson Heritage Center located on 29. And we do have just a very brief PowerPoint presentation to walk through the process.
Somebody put your lights back here. Covered.
I think they're up front.
Hmm.
Here we go.
Is that better?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Again, I want to thank you for the opportunity to have this space and your grace in order to present a lot of work that has gone into the last 2 years through this process. A very dedicated executive board, but a very powerful community support system that stands behind the board to get us to where we are right now. So the Millennium Group and the Heritage Center is definitely a physical presence in the community, as we all know. Is well on its way to making history and cracking some glass ceilings here in the county and the country at large. It's a beacon in our community, and it's committed to its mission of a community coming together. The Millennium Group serves the community as a whole, the North, the South, the East, and the West, by bringing issues of diversity, issues of equity, and issues of inclusion to the forefront of the community, and combating social injustice at all levels within Nelson County. We have several projects that we just like to note really quickly here to just as an example of the work and the investment that the board as well as the members have put into the center and the Millennium Group. In 2021, the executive board and the Millennium Group applied for a grant and they were able to secure funding for an executive director as I stand before you today. The gymnasium project is currently underway as members of the board have reported before, and many of you are well aware. A couple of you even have taken time out of your busy schedules to come into the building and to tour that. So our gymnasium project, a true community asset, earlier in its life as a school and as a center, it's coming back to life with a new roof that is already on, with a new floor that is in phases. We're working to complete the floor project and to have the sealant put back on. New interior rehabilitation, which will include windows and new paint, and a new HVAC system that is also in. All of these projects have been funded through grants that the executive board and the members of Nelson County, the Heritage Center, and the Millennium Group have applied for, as well as donations. Just as an example of the activity and the dedication that the community has in the center and bringing it to functioning status. We also have a solar panel project, which has been completed over the last couple of months. That was another grant that was received, a unanimous grant to the Millennium Group. And we're continuing to work on the health department renovations, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes. In addition to that, we've been in conversations with Nelson County Parks and Recreation and utilizing the fields as well as the gym once it is at code and is acceptable for volleyball, basketball, and such. So as you can see, over the last 2 years and even further than that, the Millennium Group and the Nelson Heritage Center have been extremely busy and have been continuing to invest in a community in which they love and respect so much. The Nelson Heritage Center, as I said briefly, is located right on 29. It is a community center, and it is grounded in community foundation. The feasibility of the building and having the health department to move to the Heritage Center just seems like a win for everyone involved as far as the community at large, and being accessible right on 29 and not even 2 miles from where the health department is currently located. That brings me to what I'd like to talk about today, the actual health department and this the project, and talking again about the location, the community feel, the community investment, the community passion for this project, as well as feasibility. The Millennium Group approached the Blue Ridge Health Department almost 2 years ago after a Board of Supervisors meeting where the request for a facility was presented. At that time, the Millennium Group was currently working with Moore Architect and Calvin Moore, who's here with me today as well, on the renovation project. The center is centrally located in the county of Nelson, and its location served the county well for decades as the segregated high school for African American students from all parts of the county, as well as the junior high school after integration. Schools are historically a grounding fixture of a community. The county invested vast resources in securing this location and vetting it as appropriately placed for the children of Nelson County, who ultimately depended on public transportation to bring them from the north, the west, the east, and the south ends of the county. One would only assume then that this location would be an acceptable place for the patrons of the health department who find it easily accessible, as I stated, only 2 miles from its current location. Our journey over the last 2 years has been very interesting. There have been a lot of hours, there's been vast resources that have been invested in this project. We did not embark on this journey lightly, and we've been extremely strategic every step of the way. Over the last 2 years, we've secured an architect firm, that's Moore's Architecture. Again, they're here with me today. We have held the initial meeting with the health department staff. We've held subsequent meetings with the health department staff, both virtually and in person. We've held meetings at the health department. We hosted the health department there for a tour of the building in the very beginning planning stages to make sure that what we were presenting as acceptable and usable space would be appropriate for their use. And also that it would be comparable to the space that they currently have. We've had 4 to 5 iteration of plans, test fit plans, which Calvin and Wall Construction can answer any questions if you have those after I finish this presentation. And that test fit plan process was a extremely long process with a lot of revisions. We took what the health department asked for. We looked at their code, their regulations based on the clients and the patrons that they service, the different groups that are housed in the health department. We looked at the number of employees they had. We looked at what the general services says as a requirement for space as far as square footage. We looked at all of those things. We looked at them in comparison with the existing space at the Heritage Center, and we came up with multiple iterations of a test fit plan for the health department to look at. We did the beginning stages of this work face-to-face, in person, with the health department, with representatives, with Dr. Bonds, with representatives from the general service. Then we hit COVID, and we hit a delay. And I don't have to speak on this or to reiterate what we've all lived through for the last 2 years. COVID-19 definitely delayed our planning process, but it will not derail the plan, and it hasn't. We have been able to persevere, we've been able to regroup, we've been able to take what we normally would do as a in-person meeting, bringing people together around a table, hashing out plans with markers, with pens, with pencils, mapping out different areas in the building, and we were able to do those virtually. I think the whole world has learned that there's quite a bit of things that we can do and interact and continue to engage virtually, and we were able to do that with representatives from general service, with representatives from the health department, with our architecture firm, the construction company, as well as members of our subcommittee for the renovation. So we did hit a bit of a delay back in 2020, but again, it didn't derail our plans. So our test fit plans have been reviewed, have been revised, have been accepted for the health department for their use. The construction plans have been developed. They've been reviewed as well. Our subcontractors have been selected and confirmed, and a construction schedule has been developed and approved that will meet the needs of the health department to be in the building by the end of 2022. And lastly, as of today, prior to this meeting, our permit for the actual project has been applied for. So to date, as I started at the beginning of this presentation and saying, the Millennium Group, the executive board, the subcommittee for the renovations has been extremely busy over the last 2 years. This has not been a short process. This has not been a process that was taken lightly. This has been a process that the Millennium Group is extremely committed to